Welcome back to the Lighthouse 2022 fasting series. In this video, I wanted to have a look at the shield of faith in Ephesians 6. It says this, specifically about the shield of faith. In every battle, take faith as your wraparound shield, for it is able to extinguish the blazing arrows coming at you from the evil one. And that's the Passion Translation. It's not a biblical text translation, it's a paraphrase of the verse. But the reason I like that translation is because it has the words wraparound shield, which will become a lot more apparent later on when we talk about that. Paul is not just describing a random set of items, he's actually describing Roman soldiers' equipment and weaponry. Paul would have been very aware of the Roman equipment and weaponry that he was referencing in his passage here because of his time spent tracking down Christians with the Romans. So looking at this shield of faith specifically, Paul was not just writing to the Ephesians about any wooden shield. He was referencing the Roman Legionary shield. And it was expertly designed in every way. And I want to go into how it was designed because it helps us understand the verse in Ephesians 6:16. So it was made out of 3 layers of wood. It was coated in olive oil for protection, and it had a metal rim around the edge. The reason it had a metal rim around the edge was to stop enemies striking the shield and going through the shield. And the reason it was coated in olive oil was because it was waterproofing the shield. And the 3 layers of wood was just for extra strength. It was probably made out of a similar wood to plywood. Just the 3 wood layers made it extra durable. It was also created and manufactured under immense duress. So the shield was bent in a sort of an arch-like shape under like immense pressure of steam. So they'd use the steam to bend the wood around, so it would be a wraparound shield. That's what Paul's referencing there. The shields could also be locked together in a formation called a testudo, which also means tortoise. The legionaries would lock their shields together, and then they place the shields over their heads, and they'd be able to advance into a position which was extremely dangerous, or they would be getting shot at by lots of arrows. So that's what Paul is referencing in this verse, that kind of shield. It's got a multi-purpose shield. It's used for lots of different things. That's what kind of protection our faith gives us. Our faith in Christ is sturdy like the shield. It has many layers of protection and strength. We can throw it into tough situations and it won't break. Our faith in Christ is coated in olive oil, and olive oil in the Bible is also referencing the Spirit of God, and that helps us not to become dry, not to become religious, not to become stagnant. Our faith is made under pressure. Faith is not just something you receive, it's something that's molded into you, into a shape through the situations that we go through. It will not break as long as we trust Him. Finally, our faith in Christ locks us together as Christians of all denominations, without which we would all fragment and die, because our shields have to be locked together as fellow Christians to be able to survive immense stress and strain. For example, if you're arguing with fellow Christians, it can break your church, it can break your community apart. You're going to form breaks in your fellowship with other people. And it's just the same when the Romans were using their testudo, their shields. Remember, the shield is your faith. If the testudo was advancing on a position and it got broken up, it would be extremely bad, because you're in that position where all the enemies are chucking everything they have at you to try and stop you. And if your testudo breaks, you're all sitting ducks. That's what Paul's talking about, the shield of faith. It says, above all, pick up your shield of faith. In other words, if you can't pick up anything else, pick up your shield of faith. And it comes to the reason why that is so important here. So it says, for it is able to extinguish the blazing arrows or flaming arrows coming at you from the evil one. So the evil one is Satan. And the flaming arrows are the things that he's shooting at you. Now, it's very interesting that Paul mentions this, because even though you may have seen flaming arrows in movies, a famous example is of the movie Troy, when everyone fires their flaming arrows up into the sky. It looks amazing. Gladiator, Lord of the Rings. There's loads of instances where people are using flaming arrows to signify danger, to signify an oncoming doom, an oncoming hail of arrows that's going to take out whatever it's shooting at. That depiction of flaming arrows is definitely inaccurate, because at the time, flaming arrows were pretty much useless. They couldn't kill you, because trying to attach a flame to a regular arrow would mean that it would just, as you were shooting it would just go out, because there wasn't enough fuel on the end of the arrow to carry it a certain amount of distance. Sometimes in films, a flaming arrow would hit someone and that person would burst into flame. That's completely wrong. That would never ever happen ever. So flaming arrows had to be modified. They had to be strengthened. They had to be lengthened. They had to be a lot heavier. So when they were shot, they would basically not be able to kill you if they hit you, but it would still be flaming. So they had to weigh those two things up. So what's actually going on here? The enemy's shooting flaming arrows at you. Those arrows can't kill you. What's the reason that they used flaming arrows? It was to cause terror. It wasn't a killing weapon. It was to break the morale of the enemy. So they would shoot hundreds of these arrows all at once, and it would look like a huge swarm coming at you. And that's why they use it in movies a lot, because it looks terrifying. So at the time, there was a lot of superstition. So flaming arrows being the definition of evil coming at you would terrify the enemy, or their will to fight would be broken. So translating what Paul's saying into this, Paul is saying that you have nothing to fear from the flaming arrows of the enemy, because they can't kill you, but they look terrifying. But if you peer over your shield, if you look past your faith, if you don't allow your faith to protect you, and instead you look at the sky, which is covered in hundreds of thousands of flaming arrows coming at you, you will turn and run. But if you allow your faith to protect you, just as Paul is saying, if you allow it to wrap around you, if you allow it to stop the attacks of the enemy coming at you, then you will survive, because your faith is strong enough, it's durable enough to withstand the attacks of the enemy. And it's also able to extinguish them as well. It doesn't just hit you and burn forever. The arrows come at you and then they extinguish themselves on your shield, on your faith, because your faith in God is stronger than anything that the enemy can throw at you.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us today as we continue our series through the 2022 Fast here at the Lighthouse on encouraging your faith. You can find these videos on our Facebook page or our YouTube channel, and we hope that you'll like and share these with your friends.